What's going on, people? Is Jesse Palacios with Truck Talks, and I got a special guest, Mr. David Blackwell. Not only is his soul tied to country music, but he has the heart of a Shucker. And as a Shuckers organization leadership, he can tell you so much more about himself than I will be able to. But I will say, for the past 4 years, his heart has been driven to community. And you can hear it in his testimony, his voice, and the way he talks. So I'm going to let David introduce himself. It's your world, brother. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to sit with you. So,
man, thanks for having me.
Having me.
So like Jesse said, I'm David Blackwell, community development with the Biloxi Shuckers, and going into my 4th season. And it's not really sure exactly how I landed where I did.
We never really understand our journey until it lands, right?
And I think that's the most exciting part for me, is that just to see how it's all unfolded and allowed me to be where I am today. Certainly not finished. I certainly got a lot more that we want to accomplish.
Have a lot more, right?
That's right. I think that the journey has been so fun to look back on, and it's been encouraging. Learned a lot of lessons in the process, and be able to utilize those lessons today in what we're doing has been very helpful.
It's amazing how your journey, like you're saying, you don't know where it's going to end up. You don't know how it's going to play out.
Right.
But me, myself, I'm a very faith-driven individual, and I follow, the idea that it's not my journey all the time. I need to release the wheel, if you will, right? Yeah. Jesus, take the wheel, is a saying. But it's more than that, to hear like some of the stuff that you're involved in. So tell me about some community events that you have coming up that you actually developed over you said 4 years in this position.
Yeah, I think there's so many things we've got coming up. We've got, I won't get into the details, but you can find all of this stuff on our social media and website. We've got a 228 day coming up, kind of a block party to kind of celebrate the Gulf Coast area code on February 28th. And we're getting ready to launch a podcast of our own.
Yeah, I saw the first episode.
Yeah, the clip. Out. Yeah. So we got some things that we're still working out the details on, but we're getting really close to making that happen. And we'll be talking about baseball. Don't get me wrong, but it's based around community. It's based around the people of the Mississippi Gulf Coast. We kind of see that we have a triangle from New Orleans to Mobile to Hattiesburg, and that triangle is important to us. But it all starts here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. That's number one, the heart of it, right? Which is ironically heart of a Shucker.
Imagine that.
It's kind of that play on the heart of a champion. We were trying to figure out what to name this thing, and man, we kept going back and forth. And one day it just kind of hit me, like, heart of a champion. We've won the Southern League South Division several times. Right. We've never won the Southern League Championship. That's something that we aspire to do as a team, obviously. But from an organizational perspective, we can go out here and help build champions, right? I did kind of steal that. The high school I went to back in New Orleans uses that, building champions for life. That's kind of the thought process is, man, let's have the heart of a Shucker and let's get out there and make a difference in the world. So, back to the community events, we've got all those things coming up. We've got several things coming up at the beginning of every season, but I would say the most important to me currently in the moment, I'd have to say, is Chiefs versus Eagles. Which is our Keesler Air Force Base leadership softball game. They'll come over and basically, anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000 people from Keesler will spend the day at our ballpark, having a good time, eating some good food, watching some good softball. So we're excited about that. Our front office team is going to play a conglomerate of people from Keesler, so that should be entertaining.
So you say front office? Are we talking like top tier athletes? Or are we talking like?
Listen, I don't.
Because I want to know what I want to see, right? Are we talking about Keesler Air Force Base? All right, so whenever you're talking about their side, I kind of get who they are. But you said front office. I'm hoping they're not playing the Shuckers.
No, they're not. They're not playing our Shuckers. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because our front office is made up of the highest skilled athletes I've ever seen. Like, they are top-notch competitors.
Oh wow.
We are prepared. We're going to try really hard. Our team is going to put every ounce of effort into this. But I say that a little bit sarcastically.
The gauntlet is thrown down.
Most of us are older, right?
Yeah.
Most of us are past the age of 35, and that that statement of, man, once you hit 35, everything starts to
slow
hurt.
down.
It's true. It's 100% accurate. But we do have some young folks on our team, and that's going to help us a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly than that, the Chiefs versus the Eagles, the Air Force leadership teams are going to play. And then we've got a community softball team, which is a little bit slightly more competitive, made up of some former collegiate athletes from across the Gulf Coast that'll play what we're dubbing the official base softball team. So that's going to be a lot of fun to see how that plays out. But we're really looking forward just to having that many people from the Air Force in our stadium at one time. It's kind of made for them. It's not open to the public.
Right.
We've got some special invited guests, but we're really looking forward to just spending some time with the airmen over there and having some good conversations and building some relationships with them.
So, tying the Shuckers back into your heart now, I did a little look back on you, right? And Waylon Jennings, I see that you're a big fan, right?
Yeah.
But that's where you originally started with because I'm going to tie you into exactly what. So let me start off here. I requested an opportunity to speak with a musician, and I had a few people hit me up. David here was kind of, hey, Jamal Grisham, I don't know if y'all remember him, but he basically said, hit up my dude, because he has some phenomenal things, and plus he's a musician, Jesse. I was like, okay. I started researching, like, what's the story with the Waylon and the country music? Is that where truly you were driving into? And
I like to tell people that have two passions in my life, and it's baseball and country music, and I mean that sincerely. There's a lot of country music I don't like. There's a lot of country music I really like. But there's a lot of other music that I like. I'm a big Tom Petty fan, big Tom Petty fan. But that all started almost in what most people would say an accident. My dad has been a musician his entire life. My aunt and he both been band directors, and my dad, I believe, was in Louisiana Philharmonic Symphony Orchestra back in. So
it's in your bloodline, man.
It is, but
it's like something that hits with you.
It is. I didn't want anything to do with it. In middle school, high school, I took some lessons here and there, but I just never really attached anything. The connection was never made. I always wanted to play baseball. I wasn't great, but I tried really hard, and I wanted to potentially play in college, and was fortunate enough to have that opportunity, and then moved into a student assistant coaching role, which they offered me, and some of our talents are only will take us so far, right? So that's what I really wanted to do in my life, was coach, and so I jumped on that opportunity and tried to build that out, and it just didn't take like I thought it would. And I'm sitting in my dorm room one afternoon, and I said, man, I really want to learn how to play guitar. Everybody in my school, the college I went to, it just seemed like everybody played guitar.
And that's a true statement. And it's that age demographic. What's the instrument that would be the most beneficial for me? Right. Yeah. The guitar is a quick learn, but it's more than that.
I do want to say, I think that there's an element of ladies seem to prefer to hang out with the guys who play guitar. So that may have had something to do with it. I mean, not necessarily me, but just any I think any
young fella that could be a thing.
No doubt. And man, I started writing some poems or some songs down, some lyrics, and I'd bring them to my next door neighbor, and I'm still really good friends with, and he's played some stuff with us in the past, and I'd bring them to him, and I think he would get annoyed that I'd keep, hey, put this to music, right? I'm sitting here thinking it's easy, right? Just do it, man. Just do what you do.
I got these words, make some magic happen over there. Yeah, you got the skill.
Yeah, do it. Yeah. So I learned quickly I probably needed to learn how to play if I wanted to continue to write. And man, it was just one of those things where it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And I officially wrote my first entire song, playing the music and the lyrics, I think when I was a junior in college.
Oh, really?
And cool. It just kind of came to me, and I kind of put it all together. And man, I really wanted to do that. I really wanted to take it and see how far it would go. And I just wanted to write. I didn't necessarily care to be an artist. I just wanted to write. And I knew enough about country music. That's what I grew up on. I grew up just loving it. And so I said, man, how do I turn this into doing something full time? And started to write and just kind of sat on some stuff. And then I tried my hand, later on at trying to go up to Nashville and push some songs. And
how'd that turn out? I mean, you're here.
Well, I'm here.
So I'll give you, like, I understand where you're at.
Yeah.
But how did that turn out while you were there? Did you have growth? Was it like?
Absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved just being involved in the process, trying to quote unquote make it right. I still got some friendships from back then that I was fortunate enough to build, and obviously I didn't make a bunch of money off of it and didn't sell a bunch of songs, but I've had several songs published, and that's been good. I've cut a few of those songs and been able to co-write. I was actually texting a buddy of mine last night how we're both just itching to get together and write again. And so
this might be the catalyst, bro.
Yeah,
this might be the bug right here.
It's a long time coming. For the past 3 years, I've really been immersed into my current role, and I'm completely happy with that. But what I'm learning out of this is that while I love to write, while I love to be invested in country music, I'm much more entertained is not the right word. I'm much more interested in supporting country music. I have this phrase that I use: play more country music. And the reason I say that is because, man, typically when you go into a store, go into a restaurant, you go to a ballpark like Keysville Federal Park where the Biloxi Shuckers play. You see what I did there?
I did.
Yeah.
I did the plug.
You're hearing all these different kinds of music, right? There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Man, I grew up in New Orleans, and you just don't hear a lot of country music in New Orleans.
No, you don't.
That's not a bad thing.
It's a party town.
It is.
It is.
But man, there's so much truth and so much heart and soul that goes into these artists that are putting these things out there, the writers behind the songs, that it's become my passion to support these elements as opposed to create them, more so taking them and helping kind of push the brand, ironically, which is what my role is with the Shuckers, is to be our brand ambassador, right? So it's kind of the same thing. And man, what I've found is I feel a lot more at home in that element than I do in writing. And so looking back on it, I feel like God just kind of orchestrated things perfectly for me, because if I'd have gone down that path and been more successful, I certainly wouldn't be where I am today.
I say this with an open mind and heart on this one, is yes and no. And I could say this wholeheartedly because I kind of gave you a little bit of background about me before we started all this. He kind of got to know a little bit of who I was. But I think you supporting in a situation where you're fine-tuned music. Yeah. But you're in a position that's amazing to where you can tie them together now.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like, it's like God gave you a skill. He gave you a time. He put it in your heart.
Right.
And then he gave you the epiphany of, you may not be able to string it.
Yeah.
But your songs are there in your heart, and it's not singing them. It's giving that, like leadership does, support from the bottom up, right?
Yeah, and I 100% agree. I think that's, I know he put those things on my heart for a reason, to write songs and write country music. And don't get me wrong, my songs are great. At least I think so. Right? They've been fantastic songs. Just I haven't been able to convince other people of that just yet, right? But the cool part about that is I know that looking back on it, like I touched on earlier, he was orchestrating things to put me in the position I'm in now. And man, I just love it so much more. It's a little easier because it's more natural. Man, when I was a kid, I'd be playing baseball at the park, and I'd go to games, and these kids, man, sing that country song, and I'd sing "Don't Rock the Jukebox" by Alan Jackson.
That was your jam.
That was it, right?
That was the easy one that you could pull out the pocket on a call,
and it would always make them laugh. And I'm looking back, man, maybe they were laughing at me as opposed to with me, but man, I was laughing with me, right?
You were enjoying it.
I was enjoying it,
yeah.
And so it's those things. It's promoting the element of, hey, look. You may not connect with country music, and that's fine. That's okay. there's a lot of genres of music that I don't personally connect with.
And that's good.
That doesn't make them bad.
It's them.
Yeah.
Like, it's your
everybody's
flavor.
got a preference.
Yeah.
The trick is helping everybody understand to respect those elements, right? Just even if you don't understand them.
Outside of music, that's just a human dynamic that a lot of people falter at. Like, if you're not in the wheelhouse that I understand, we kind of automatically put that arm aversion, right? There's something happening in my life, and it's simple. Like, and it's going to sound a little bit silly, but it's WWJD. Like, what would Jesus do, right? But literally, every time I have conversations with people, and if I feel conflicted, right?
Sure.
I'll simply say, no, Jesse. Yes, Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Make it real quick as a flip of the switch. And that perception and perspective has given me so much clarity. And it's amazing to hear that your clarity is coming through fruition of where you're at in your time, or we'll call it your season of life. Yeah,
right. I would say that there's probably not a job that I've ever had. And I've worked for some great groups, organizations, for some great people. But I always thought, well, this is what I'll do for the rest of my life. And then I get 3 to 4 years into it, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Right.
I know I'm doing what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like, there's no doubt in my mind now, and I know that
That's
because
amazing, brother.
Of all the learned experiences, right? Like learning to what to look for. You know, when I'm doing a job, when I'm working with a group of people, it's finding those elements that create the longevity, right? That create I'll tell Hunter, our general manager, I was like, man, I'm not gonna burn out, like, because I've learned how to
manage it and
protect it, right? And it's do I stretch myself too thin sometimes? Yeah, my wife would tell you all the time, and she may not be wrong, but you know, it's learning how to know what I can handle, and it's a constant battle. I'm not always going to be right?
Yeah, but it feels like you should. I feel what you're saying.
Yeah,
like, you feel like you should give because you have the ability. You feel like you should be in spaces to give opportunities because guess what? You're in an opportunistic position.
I was having this conversation with somebody earlier today. I mean, maybe just a couple of hours ago. And
crazy epiphany coming
your
way.
Right.
Here it comes. Here it comes.
If you don't learn anything else, maybe you learn this. You can't be everything to everybody. It's just physically, emotionally, and mentally, spiritually impossible. I don't think we intend to try to be everything to everybody. I think that's just our servant's heart, right? Like the people who struggle with that, they just want to help people.
Yeah.
But what I can do is influence every single person I come in contact with. And so while I may not be able to help person A, B, or C directly, my goal should be to try to help influence the people that can.
Yes.
Right? And so, like, all of a sudden we're multiplying things, right? Like we're spreading it around. It's not just, okay, well, here's what I can do to help, and I can't do anything for you. Sorry, I'm out of.
So I have this thing that so my book that I'm authoring, right? I have this thing that's called like the pebble in the pond effect.
Okay.
Right? You throw out that one thought and it makes a ripple effect. But what if that ripple, because of the goodness inside your heart, the greatness that you have spilling over, ends up being a tsunami that washes over those people that you can't directly impact, but like you're saying, the ripple effect just flows over because someone else has that feeling that you gave them.
Goes a long way,
and it does something different, man. It's amazing to hear how your ripple effect from where it started, right? Like your heart was in music, real talk, right?
Yeah, it is.
Your heart's in sports,
and
it's amazing how God put both of them in play,
right,
in a position to where you literally can influence generations, man. You're literally tying into soul ties with their fathers and their kids on that baseball field. That game you were talking about, like you are influencing hearts, brother.
I that's the hope. I really do believe that, and I feel like I can safely speak for our entire staff and our front office within our organization,
right?
That our goal is just to make a difference in somebody's life, to whether it's creating a memory that they'll have for all time. I can tell you personally that when I was a kid, I would go to baseball games, to the University of New Orleans baseball games. My grandparents were season tickets, And I've got pictures of myself and my grandfather sitting there behind home plate, because that's always where he wanted to sit, was behind home plate. And we would sit there, and I would just constantly bother him, like, Papa, let's go out and hit the wiffle ball. Because I'd bring a wiffle ball and a bat to every game that I went to, right? Because I wanted to go out there and play. And so he would sacrifice his time watching the game to go out there and throw the ball to me to let me hit it, right? And those are the memories that I continue to carry with me, right?
Literally in your heart.
Yeah, right. And so, like, if we can help create those opportunities for people that are coming to our games, we got a wiffle ball field brand new at the beginning of last year outside of our stadium.
Yeah.
That wasn't a direct correlation to me by any means, but man, it's something that I think about all the time. I actually had the chance. So I've got a nephew. I think he's 12 or 13 years old. He actually just went to the Super Bowl with my mom. My mom was given tickets through the Greater New Orleans Sports Foundation, who she's worked with for years. And so she took my nephew, and he was pulling for the Eagles, by the way. I don't think he's a fan of Taylor Swift. I think
there's a lot there too. Like, we'll unfold that one in another podcast. But yeah, I think
that was the way he framed it. Right. But what was cool about it is my nephew and I we had LSU playing in the fall, back in November.
Right.
Now, people who know me know that I am the biggest Alabama fan you've ever met in your life. Jamal knows this.
Like, all right, we were good up to this point.
Well, so I'm a fan of greatness.
Here we go.
So, but I grew up on that. Like, back in the early 90s,
the Roll Tide game, right?
Yeah, I was. That's who I was. That's who I watched. That's who my dad, my aunt, and my grandparents, I fell in love with that. I was born in Mobile, so I feel like it's in my blood. But all that being said, he's an LSU fan. So he was here for the LSU game. And afterwards, he and his buddies were out playing on the wiffle ball field. And I just happened to walk out at the right time and saw him. And I got to go to that wiffle ball field and play wiffle ball with my nephew for the first time ever.
And that's got to be an amazing feeling, because you got to look back. Paw.
Yeah,
right?
That's exactly right.
Right? Gave you the seed.
Yep. Who he's never met, because he passed away before he was born.
And now you're literally transitioning that in. And then now you have a little wiffle ball field in a company that you have a heart for, literally. Right. You see how, if you don't believe in signs, people, I don't know what to say. Like, and it's amazing to hear, like, the story of kind of how it weaves into play and the timelines of your life, because it's pretty cool to hear, because most people I've talked to, they're learning their journeys too. Right. Most of us are. Sure. We never really know where we're going. I'm going to be realistic.
Sure.
I feel that in my heart now.
No doubt.
It's just so unique to hear that, like, all of this is running into faith too.
Yeah. Without a doubt. And I think that's the orchestrated plan, right? Like, I don't know what that plan is.
Yeah.
All I can do is feel that tug on my heart, or see that path, and then dig in deeper to it. All right. So I'll give you a couple of examples if you don't mind.
No, you got
how
time,
this,
man.
this plays out.
Yeah, do it. I'm down.
Back in April, we adopted 2 dogs. This was not planned.
You're talking about you personally?
Yes.
Okay.
However, the purpose of me, my wife says they're my dogs because it was my idea. The goal was, so this is how it happened. We're at an event in downtown Biloxi, myself and a couple of guys from our team, and we're there and we're having a good time, and they see these dogs from the Humane Society that were there for adoption. So they're playing with these little puppies. I mean, they hadn't been maybe a month or 2 old.
Okay.
Trying to get them adopted, etc. Well, we're having some conversation. They said, we're not allowed to bring our dogs. It's part of the deal that they have with the apartment complex that they stay in. They're not allowed to bring their dogs from home.
Right.
And one of them, and I'll never forget, he says, man, it'd be awesome if it had a team dog. Well, I hear that, and I was like, yeah.
Let's do this.
We're going to have a team dog. So they're walking off talking to some other vendors, and I walked up to Michael, was the guy with the Humane Society. I said, hey, look, what do I need to do to take this dog? We'll make it our team dog. And he said, "Oh yeah, man, it's just a fee to get it taken care of." And I was like, "All right, consider it done." And man, would you believe his brother was sitting in the kennel next to him? And I said, "Well, what about if I took both of them?" And he said, "Well, yeah, the same thing." I was like, "Okay, I'll swing it." And we did it. And I called my wife and I said, "Hey, I'm coming home with a dog." And then we had a conversation about the second dog. And I said, "I'm actually coming home with 2 dogs."
I'm sure that went over pretty well.
It did. She has wanted a dog. She kind of wanted to pick the dog out. But I wasn't letting that moment pass. And so she was gracious enough to put up with me. We finally got
shout out to you.
Carrie Beth.
Carrie Beth, shout out to you.
We put up with them for a year. They've just recently turned a year old. We were gracious enough to, or not gracious, we were fortunate enough to be able to have them trained with Russell K9 over in D'Iberville.
Oh, cool.
They did a fantastic job. They get them at 6 months and then they help train them.
Build them out.
Made a world of difference. They're still rambunctious, but it's made a world of difference in how they behave. But the coolest part about it is when we put their harnesses on, they become completely different animals. They understand that they're working.
Oh, so you got them prepped to where
we didn't do it on purpose. That's something that they just know, I guess, naturally. And so when they have their harnesses on and they're at the stadium and they're interacting with the fans, like they're calm, they're cool, they're more collected. They typically don't jump on everybody.
It's
right?
Like they know the light switch is on.
That's correct, and it's a trigger for them. And I tell you all that to say that, man, we made an impact decision. I didn't know the plan that I had for those dogs, but the opportunities that it's presented to us to be able to utilize them, like our goal is in a couple of years to be able to have them fully certified to be service dogs. And so we're going to take them to nursing homes and the armed forces.
That is amazing, bro.
Get them into places where we're able to have an impact on these people who, just love animals, right? Just, have the ability. My mom's got a pit bull who's her service dog, and it is the sweetest, most kind-hearted dog. It knows its job to kind of help her stand up and sit down, and he does what he does. But man, when people meet Creole, which is her dog, like it's just this connection that they have. And so I've kind of lived with that philosophy. I don't know the plan, but when something is planted, I need to take a few minutes sometimes and think, well, is this really a seed that's been planted, or is that just a gut feeling or emotion?
Is it too much David? Or
Right. Because I could fall victim to that very easily, no doubt. But it's moments like that just say, hey man, let's take a chance on this. Let's see if it'll work. And we'd been looking for a dog, and we had just moved into a house, and so we took it and ran with it.
Tied to the Humane Society.
Yeah. No doubt. Look, they've been fantastic to work with. They've been a really cool community partner for us, and we've got some more things planned with them coming up soon.
That is amazing,
but yeah, so that's the kind of plan. And then the second thing I'll tell you, I'll tie it back to Waylon Jennings.
Okay, yeah, I'm down with that.
So I'm a big Waylon Jennings fan. Love Waylon Jennings. I got turned on to Waylon Jennings when I was in college, which is after he passed. And I actually bought one of his greatest hits CDs from Walmart for like $5. I was like, yeah, I'll listen to this. And I heard a couple of songs. I'm like, man, it just hooked, like constant. Just learn more about him. So I went and bought the autobiography, and I went and bought all the books.
Went down the rabbit hole.
That's
Here we
exactly
go.
Right. Started doing the research, and one of the coolest stories that I love to tell people is that Waylon Jennings was the bass player for Buddy Holly. Buddy Holly had a little issue with his band, the Crickets. Ironically, the Beatles were big Buddy Holly fans, so that's why they named their band the Beatles was in to honor the Crickets, right?
Makes sense.
So when he had a little issue, he knew Waylon Jennings, who was a radio DJ. The story goes, from what they say, is he walked into Waylon Jennings' room or office one day and handing him a bass player. He said, "You got a month, learn how to play this." And so Waylon Jennings learned how to play bass and was his bass player on the road. Well, they're on this winter dance tour, and I think it was in Iowa. I'm 41 years old. My memory's starting to struggle a little bit.
Man, you still You're still young.
But they're on this winter dance tour, and Buddy Holly, they've been traveling these school buses, essentially what they used, back before it was big money to tour. And Buddy Holly charters an airplane to take he and his drummer to the next spot so they can get some rest and get some laundry done. Well, the Big Bopper and Richie Valens, who were on this tour with them, both of them came to Waylon and the drummer and said, hey, could we take your seat on that plane? Well, Waylon Jennings tells, I can't remember who it was, which one of them, but he says, yeah, it's okay with me if it's okay with Buddy. Mm-hmm. And they went and got it squared away with Buddy, and everything was good. So that night, they're getting ready to load the buses and the planes, and Buddy and Waylon are talking to each other, and Buddy says, I hope your butt freezes on that plane, or on that bus, because he was going to ride the bus and so that the
guys could take the plane.
I hope your butt freezes on that bus.
That's the plane, isn't it?
I hope not, because the next part's not a good part. But he said, Waylon then tells Buddy, well, I hope your plane crashes. And then it did.
That's what I'm saying. That was the plane.
Yeah, that was and so it killed Richie Valens
and Buddy Holly.
All that were aboard. Well, Waylon Jennings should have been on that plane, or was going to be on that plane.
Huh. I didn't know that part of the story. I knew about the Richie Valens side.
Right.
I knew he had taken a seat, but I didn't realize that it was from Waylon Jennings.
And then we end up with Waylon Jennings, the artist, right?
That
so we wouldn't.
Amazing, man. Like, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and look, I love the story that Waylon lived out, like the struggles that he had, the addictions that he struggled with, just trying to figure out. But he's also very prominent in helping guide other artists of all genres to do things their own way.
Yeah, because he was a pioneer.
Yeah,
he
not
carved
necessarily
things.
do it the Nashville way, right? The way that they were doing. And I love that, because I find that there's always multiple ways to accomplish a certain goal. Everybody's going to approach it differently, but you've always got an opportunity to be creative and outside the box to get the job done. And I feel like that's what he did, but he was true to himself in the process. But man, he struggled with that for years, just that mental reminder
Anguish
that he
of that,
said,
yeah.
I hope your plane crashes.
That's that guilt that seeds in your heart, right?
Correct. Without that happening, we probably don't get Waylon Jennings, the artist, right? We probably don't get his story. He doesn't live to marry Jessie Coulter and have, more kids, and he doesn't influence all these people. And the way that I feel like that relates, like, I've never been in his situation, obviously, but I feel like the way it relates to all of our lives is, man, you just never know what's coming. You never know what's 30 minutes away from happening. What are you doing right now to make sure that you're not wasting that next 30 minutes?
So, yeah, and that right there is something that most people will not lean into, right?
Yeah.
Like, they don't have the wherewithal to think, like, tomorrow's not promised.
Right.
And whenever you start living more fruitfully in your journey, you start to realize it's crazy that you're anchored spiritually with Waylon, man, because you can hear it. Like, you have this appeal, you have this little appeal to him that's deeper than just, hey, I like his music.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. But without all those adversities that he had to overcome, like you said, you wouldn't have had the artist. Just like you wouldn't have this special place in your moments in your life right now. If your life would have been peaches and cream, brother.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, if you would have, let's just say you took the baseball route 100%.
No.
You wouldn't be in this position.
That would have ended much like my music career, right?
I don't think that's a true statement.
I would have been great.
Yeah.
Convincing everybody else.
That's right. And a lot of times, I could say this 100%. A lot of times we find ourselves in those situations where our ideas are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Everybody else is looking at us like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure you really doing? Like, you know? And it's been an amazing journey, because I'm 46, so I'm not much older than you.
Okay.
But it's been an amazing journey to have those epiphany hits.
Right.
You always look back, and it's funny that we're in a truck, because I always talk about the rear view, right? You always look back in the rear view, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then your memo is like registering, like, this is a moment that I can take from something I learned in the past to make it so much more fruitful for other people. And the fact that your heart moves for people Brother, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if people know that about you 100%, but I'm here to highlight it. Like, the things you're doing are amazing in an organization. The things that you do with the community. I was reading up on how your community involvement within the Shuckers organization, how you tie back into every aspect, kids, adults, old people, dogs. I mean, literally anything you can fruitfully make something happen with what you have at your disposal. This is what we're talking about whenever we ask someone to sit in the seat. This is literally the blueprint of things that we love to hear. Previous guests have the same moments with me, and it's been an amazing opportunity to hear your story for sure, because I wasn't expecting this. I really wasn't. I didn't know what to expect. Jamal was like, you need to talk to David. I was like, all right, bro, I'll talk to him.
Yeah.
But he told me that you were like a musician, and then I started looking. I'm like, where's he playing music at? I'm like trying to find venues where you've been playing music. I'm like, maybe I could go record him playing live and I could put it in the mix. So now I need you to play some music. Yeah.
I've had some opportunities. We did a fundraiser. We supported a fundraiser at Ground Zero Blues Club. Oh, cool. Out by the stadium. But great partners of ours. Absolutely love them. And they were supporting Back Bay Mission on a fundraiser, and so we supported that same fundraiser. And I had the opportunity to play about a 30-minute set before the real artist came on, right? But I got to play some of my favorite stuff, some of the stuff that I've written, and I enjoyed that thoroughly. I played at the ballpark a couple of times here and there for different events that we've had. I will tell you just one last thing before I wrap it up, because this comes into question. Well, do you ever sing the national anthem? That comes up all the time,
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that. Like, I'll sing it and like, oh, I didn't know you sang. Like, part of the sacrifice for me putting in the time and the effort that I have here is taking a step back from those other passions until I can get to the point where it's a little bit easier, right? Because there's a lot of truly development that's going into what we're doing, and it's a sacrifice that I'm more than willing to make because I am very passionate about what I'm doing. But the national anthem is a little bit of a sore subject for me, because the first time I ever sang it was at a New Orleans Voodoo Arena football game back in, I think it was 2012 or so, and I get about halfway through the song and forget the words.
There's so many people that have had that happen because of the nervousness.
That's right, the fear.
Exactly, the fear.
Because it's such a big moment. It's not just getting up there and singing a song.
Exactly.
It means something. And you approach it with, and look, I wasn't even 30 yet, right? Like, I was still young in that capacity. And I was like, okay, this is no big deal. I'm just going to get there and sing.
Very cavalier.
Yeah, that's right. I was just like, I got to breathe. It's going to be good. I'm not nervous. But what was cool about it is
the crowd.
One of the players who I knew started singing loud enough for me to catch my spot. And like, I'm smiling, and it wasn't obvious to everybody that I had forgotten the words, but he didn't let me fail, right? He supported me and picked me up and helped carry me. I've had the privilege of singing the national anthem at our stadium, and I've yet to forget the words again. Part of that is the growing confidence of, I'm not doing this alone.
There it is.
When you feel like you have to carry that weight, when you feel like you have to do this on your own, whether it's singing the national anthem or just life in general,
right?
You're gonna fail. You can't
carry it yourself.
It takes a team of people. It takes your group of people, the people that you're close to.
Yeah, your tribe, man.
That's right.
That's it.
That's right. And that's what I love most importantly about the Shuckers current setup is, man, it's just, we're all working together. We're all working together to make a difference. And while I enjoy what I do, and I do feel like I carry the responsibility of making a true difference, everybody in that office is making a difference as well.
Yeah.
Whatever role they're holding, whatever role they're currently in, everybody's got bigger aspirations, but they're focused on making a difference where they are, and that's what's so cool about it.
It's amazing that y'all have that literal heart of a Shucker.
Yeah.
It's amazing that the name came out that way too.
That's right.
Like, I'll leave you with this too before we wrap up. I served with some phenomenal leadership. I've served with some phenomenal hearts. You, sir, have a great heart, and you have some amazing leadership tactics. You have some amazing things. I had a leader once tell me this, and I'll leave you with this. We go farther together. It's that simple.
That's it.
And he said, I can tell everybody how to get to point A from point B, however you want to say that saying. There it is. And I can direct them to zigzag through the idea of what I need.
Yeah.
Or I can watch someone grow and say, we're supposed to go over there, stay in between these limits.
Yeah.
And don't do anything illegal, unethical, or immoral.
Right.
And I got your cover.
That's it.
And he just let us run. And he saw some of the most amazing leadership growth curves happen because people were unafraid to make the mistakes.
That's right.
To move with freedom because the end goal was directed, not given.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our general manager, Hunter Reed, and assistant general manager, Trevor Mattifus. That's their approach. And that's a big reason why we're successful. That's probably the main reason why we're successful, because they truly know to get the best out of the right people. You've got to let them run, and you got to let them have some crazy ideas. Lord knows I've got plenty of them.
So you're the think tank.
I won't go that far. I've got ideas that work, and some
good idea, Ferry. And then they're like, David, no.
That's when I have to take a step back and say, okay, is this a good idea, or is this just a good idea? Or is it? Right. But man, it's really refreshing to know that the trust, and you have to earn it.
Yes.
Okay, you have to earn it. It's not just given to you. Don't get me wrong. But just the trust and the confidence that they have in me and in the rest of our staff to do our job is pretty cool.
Well, I'll tell you what, brother. I am blessed to sit in your presence. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been very fruitful because I did not know that this piece of the Shuckers organization, Jamal spoke of it, but I didn't know the layers were so deep because the people who run it have the heart, literally, of a champion. And we'll call it the Shuckers, but you have a full heart, and it's very fruitful. And I hope you continue to spill on to others, and I hope that God continues to bless you in ways that you're not ready for, because guess what? Whenever you're not ready, it's going to break the mold and make you into something greater. And I can't wait to see what that is, man. So thanks for this.
Yes, sir.
I really appreciate it, man. If you guys want to connect with David Blackwell, let me know. His information is going to be on this podcast. You'll see his contacts on how he would like to contact. And whenever you get a chance, go check out a Shuckers game. Go hit him up. Go sit in the stands, or better yet, tie into the community so that you can be a fruitful opportunity for him to influence, and also you can influence others. It's all about giving back. And whenever you look at your cup starting to spill over, don't clean it up. Let it spill over onto others. Trust me, it'll keep going. Jesse, Truck Talks. David, thanks again, brother. I appreciate you, man.
Sir.
We're going to be out. Catch us on the next episode. Talk to you later. Jesse, Truck Talks.